When Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch 2 was suddenly revealed in May of 2026, I wasn't entirely sure how to react. On the one hand, it's been so long since the last official entry in the series that I was kind of desperate for anything. On the other hand, hearing right off the bat that the game was another remake of Star Fox 64 was admittedly really deflating. I basically felt like that meme of the disappointed before and after guy in real time. Those conflicted feelings got even more conflicted once they showed the game in action. While the environments and attention to detail certainly looked beautiful, the character designs were, well, they're not bad, at least in my opinion, but they're certainly jarring compared to nearly every single design we've had for these characters in the past. I just didn't really know what to think about this game. Obviously, I was incredibly happy to see Star Fox, one of my favorite franchises, back in action, but I also couldn't shake the feeling that, well, as I've discussed at length before, it's obvious that Nintendo has never really had a proper idea for how to handle Star Fox as an IP since its inception. While the franchise did briefly move forward during the GameCube era, none of those games got nearly the same level of reception as the original or 64. And I think after the absolute mess that Command's multiple endings left the story in, I honestly don't really blame Nintendo for trying to start over. Star Fox 64 3D, for the most part, I think was mainly just made to showcase the graphical power of the 3DS, similar to how Super Mario 64 DS was made to show off the capabilities of the DS at the time. In other words, I don't think that game was really intended to be more than it was, a remaster to give 3DS players something to play in the early days of the console. Zero was the true earnest attempt to course correct and start the story over, but I think we all know how that went down. I suppose in that sense, I shouldn't really be surprised that they did this. I guess I was just holding out hope that maybe if they tried yet another reboot, they would go all the way with it and give it a brand new cinematic story with newly designed levels and set pieces. Basically what Zero sort of tried to do, but less half-assed. But nope, it's another remake of Star Fox 64. Granted, it's much more of an actual full-on remake of Star Fox 64 compared to the 3DS version, which was more of just a one-to-one remaster. But even still, how many times do we have to keep doing this? I was still excited for the game. I even pre-ordered it on Amazon to take advantage of that sweet $50 price tag they had for the physical version. Side note, do not pre-order games. This is the first time I've done this in like 6 years. But anyway, on June 25th, 2026, I got home after a long day at work, opened up the case, sat down on my couch, and booted up Star Fox. Look, I get it. I know it's corny as all hell to say something like this, but this game, for what it is kind of everything I could have wanted from it. The thing about Star Fox 64 is that that game, even for as old as it is kind of perfect. Yeah, not every level is necessarily a winner, but as a whole package, Star Fox 64 is just a tightly designed, efficient experience. Yes, the game is short. Theoretically, a single run of the campaign will take you around an hour to complete. And even if you wanted to see every level in the game, that would require at minimum 3 runs, so around 3 to 4 hours to technically experience all the content the game has to offer. But to me, breaking it down like that kind of misses the point of Star Fox 64. The game is designed to be reminiscent of an arcade game, something you can come back to and keep replaying over and over again. Whether it be to experiment with different routes, go for medals and high scores, or just for fun. That's the beauty of short games like this. I feel like it's sort of a lost art in today's day and age. I remember there was a similar discourse around the release of Metroid Dread, as that game can similarly be beaten in just a handful of hours, even to 100%. I can't speak for everyone, of course, nor will I claim to. We all have different standards and qualities that we look for in games, but to me, I don't necessarily care about a game's length. If anything, I feel like most games are too long. I would much rather have a 3 to 4 hour game that feels densely packed and fun throughout than a 15 to 20 hour game that feels padded and inconsistent. And don't even get me started on RPGs. Now, look, obviously this instance is a little bit different since this is a brand new remake of an older game sold at, well, technically slightly less than full price at this point, especially if you get the digital version, and the campaign is still this short. I get it if people don't think that's worth it. You're a human being. You are well within your right to make decisions on what is and isn't worth it to you. But if you are on the fence about this game and you happen to click on this video, just hear me out, okay? Because this game, while I was skeptical about it at first, has actually got me feeling pretty excited about the future of Star Fox. That's a feeling I haven't felt for this series, well, ever, if I may be honest. At the time of me recording this, we don't really have any concrete total sales numbers yet, so I don't know how much of a success this game has been so far, but regardless, I truly hope this game is the last time we have to go back to 64 for a long while to come. Let's talk about why. Admittedly, the one thing before release that kept my spirits up even compared to something like Star Fox Zero before that came out is the gameplay. Yes, it's a remake of Star Fox 64, but it's also a remake of Star Fox 64, aka the best and most beloved Star Fox game. There was never really any doubt that the game would be good, at least from a gameplay standpoint. That was always the problem with prior entries, and especially Zero. Even if the games held potential, they often got dragged down by controversial or just outright poorly executed gameplay. And while I love Star Fox Assault, for example, I can acknowledge that to this day it remains a very polarizing entry in the series. And not everyone is going to find enjoyment in the things that it does. Star Fox 64 though, that game is fantastic, pretty much everything about it, and all of that has been captured nearly perfectly in this new remake. The R-Wing controls like butter. It's so smooth and satisfying to fly around, whether it be in the on-rails sections or in all-range mode. Shooting, dodging, banking turns, somersaulting, speed boosting, braking, and yes, even barrel rolling all feel weighty and visceral in all the best ways. Star Fox has always been at its best with the R-Wing gameplay, and this game demonstrates that spectacularly. Of course, there are the other vehicles too, and while I'm a little less familiar with the Blue Marine's handling between the different versions since it's only in one level, I am very much familiar with the Landmaster. Just like the R-Wing, the Landmaster feels super smooth to control and aim, and all of the actions taken with it have a lot of weight to them. Maybe a little too much weight, actually. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy, but compared to the other two vehicles, it felt a little tricky to get the Landmaster to maneuver exactly how I wanted it to. Mainly concerning the roll and hover abilities. They seem a little more delayed compared to the original version, and it actually messed me up quite a few times, especially during boss fights. Certainly not unplayable or anything, just could have maybe used a few tweaks to feel a little more responsive. But on the whole, the gameplay of this game is fantastic. The R-Wing has never felt better to control in any other game. The action is palpable and satisfying shooting down enemies. It's everything that Star Fox 64 was, but enhanced. And that goes for the levels themselves, too. Star Fox 64 is a wonderfully designed, tight experience that I would argue is less short and more so efficient. No level ever overstays its welcome. The game keeps a nearly constant pace, moving from mission to mission, introducing new ideas, gimmicks, and set pieces in each one without them feeling overbearing. Mostly. And all of this is seriously enhanced by the visuals in this game. I know it's a little corny to be like, wow, the graphics in this 2026 Switch 2 game are so much better than the graphics in this 30-year-old N64 game. But honestly, I think the new visuals really do a lot of the heavy lifting for this version. While each level is functionally almost identical to how they were in the original, minus a few minor tweaks to smooth things out a bit, visually, every single level has been given a massive overhaul. Some of them are nearly unrecognizable, and I mean that in the best possible way. I know I mentioned this in my level ranking video, but Sector X is probably the biggest graphical highlight in the entire remake. It takes what was a conceptually cool but sort of flat in execution stage from the original game and turns it into one of the most memorable, impressive set pieces in the remake. It feels like with these new visuals, the original game's vision has finally been fully realized. Corneria City is an actual full-on city now, with tons of buildings and streets littered with destruction, billowing smoke overtaking the screen as you fly through the center. Sector Y gives a much grander and clearer sense of scope to the action. Did you know at this one part with the branching paths, you can actually see a Cornerian ship destroy one of the Venomian ships in the background? And then if you take the top path, that's actually the ship you fly through that was destroyed in the original game. It's that kind of attention to detail that makes this game feel so special. Zone S, battered by harsh rain and rough waves. Titania, the sky blanketed in an imposing cloud of dust and sand. The sky and terrain getting harsher and harsher as you approach the end, until it's practically apocalyptic by the time you fight Goras. Solar, with its harsh plasma photosphere and arcing solar flares. Macbeth, where you can actually see the train shooting down the rocks that get in your path during this middle path, rather than then just appearing. Venom, with its harsh orange sky and dark, foreboding terrain, evoking the imagery of hell or the underworld. The whole game just looks incredible, not even just from a technical perspective. There's some real artistry here with making each level feel fully realized and completely distinct from one another. And of course, the music is just... I always felt that Koji Kondo and Hajime Wakai's compositions in the original game were held back by the limited sound chip and instrumentation of the N64. And it wasn't until later renditions like an Assault that I feel they truly got to shine. This game cements that in my mind. Every track feels more bombastic and grandiose than they ever have before, courtesy of the impeccable arrangements and orchestrations by Stephen Barton. The whole soundtrack is an absolute joy to listen to, probably the best in the series, if not at least tied with Assault, which also had an orchestrated soundtrack. Between the upgraded visuals and the beautiful score, Star Fox feels more epic than it ever has before. As much as I find this type of praise to be sort of corny, it really does feel cinematic in a way, evocative of the action-packed sci-fi stories and movies that inspired the franchise in the first place. The attention to detail across the board is incredible, especially when it comes to the presentation. Before release, one aspect that did intrigue me were the additions of new cutscenes between levels. The plot of Star Fox 64 is very simple. I mean, it was already a retelling of the same plot from the original Star Fox on Super NES, and it barely went beyond even that. But, just like the levels themselves, I feel like the actual story and characters of Star Fox have finally been fully realized in how they were always meant to be. For players who aren't massive Star Fox lore nerds, which is like 95% of you, I'm assuming, unless you watch Amalia Solaris, there's actually not much in this game that's genuinely new for the series in terms of plot or lore, or even Star Fox 64 itself for that matter. The problem is that previously a lot of the background and context for the various characters and locales in the game were locked behind obscure supplementary material like guidebooks, dubiously canon comic series, developer interviews, etc. In the original game itself, all you really had were the comically short mission briefings before each level and context clues you could pick up on from character dialogue and various quips. Now, in this remake, they actually went out of their way to give proper context and plot relevance to every level in the game. Essentially, no matter what path you take through the Lylat system, the campaign story makes perfect sense. You actually feel a logical progression of why they're going from planet to planet like they are, other than just, it's a video game. But it's not just the levels that got this treatment. The characters have also been fleshed out and fully contextualized in the world. Slippy no longer seems like the bumbling idiot needing to be saved by Fox constantly. He's the team's mechanic and engineer. He's an essential part of the team and offers some genuine scientific insight into things both before and during missions. Technically, he was always like that in the story, but you never really felt it all that much in the game other than, I guess, when he would show you the boss health bar by analyzing its shields. Peppy feels more like a father figure than ever before, helping to keep the team grounded and offering sound tactical advice throughout the game. Falco is more of an asshole than ever, but it actually serves to function as a light character arc, as he gradually comes to respect the team, especially Fox, as the campaign progresses, until by the end, he actually acknowledges that Fox is a great leader. Sure, it's not much, but a character arc is still better than no character arc. And finally, Fox McCloud, the main character. Now, I've seen some discourse on forums and stuff about how Fox's personality seems a little off in this game, but actually, I disagree. I think this is the best characterization Fox has ever had. The thing to remember about this game, and the original Star Fox 64 for that matter, is that Fox is supposed to be just 18 in this game. He's only just becoming his own man, following in his late father's footsteps. Something which Peppy constantly reminds him of, which, side note, I actually really like that they sort of address that in this game. Fox seems genuinely kind of fed up with being compared to his father by Peppy all the time, which I think makes a lot of sense. Fox doesn't want to be seen as just James McCloud 2.0. He wants to be his own person, prove himself as a legitimate leader, and do things his own way. And while that does cause him to come across as abrasive or dismissive at times, especially in some of the early missions, I think similar to Falco, it serves as a really satisfying bit of character development in the true ending. After escaping the tunnels with the help of James's ghost, Fox finally comes to terms with his father's death and accepts that he'd be proud of him, that he's become a true leader and a great pilot. Rather than just being stoic and purely heroic from the beginning, Fox starts out casual, constantly reminding General Pepper of their coming invoice. Which, I mean, hey, for people upset about that detail, Star Fox is literally a team of mercenaries. And considering Fox inherited an 80-year loan for the Great Fox from his dad, meaning God only knows how much debt he's got on his name, yeah, I'd be pretty concerned about my financials too. Anyway, like I was saying, he goes from an aloof, casual merc at the start of the game to a genuine leader who wants to do the right thing to save the Lylat system and avenge his father. For such a short campaign, it's actually really satisfying to see that kind of character growth squeezed in there. For the first time since arguably Star Fox Adventures, or I guess the Star Fox Zero Battle Begins animated short, you really get a sense for how the team functions as a unit and their dynamics with each other. It's not just the Fox McCloud show featuring his three friends, it actually feels like a team. Characters bantering and arguing with each other, bouncing ideas back and forth on how to proceed, providing insight into the world and into themselves as individuals. The dialogue and vocal delivery overall is far more grounded in this game, at least compared to the original. And while many have taken issue with certain aspects of that, which I'll get to later, I do think this was overall the best direction to go for the series moving forward. You can tell that Valon Studios cares a lot about the Star Fox universe, and beyond the dialogue, cutscenes, and improved character interactions, you can really feel it in the Holoviewer. I know this type of thing does not appeal to everyone, but for me, I love this kind of shit. One of my favorite things to do when I was young was go through my trophy collections in Super Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl, reading the descriptions and learning little tidbits about so many games I had never even played before. The Holoviewer scratches that exact same itch, only with a distinctly Star Fox angle. As you play the campaign, earn medals, and complete challenges in the challenge mode, you'll unlock entries in the Holoviewer, giving descriptions, lore, and background details for nearly every single aspect of the game. Every character, planet, vehicle, boss, enemy, everything has an entry here. It's basically like having a little mini Star Fox wiki within the game itself. And let me tell you, as a longtime fan, I have been practically salivating at getting to unlock and read all of these. Dude, when I saw mention of Beltino Toad in Slippy's bio, I very nearly exactly recreated the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing meme. Because holy shit, it's Beltino Toad! Star Fox Assault is back on the menu, boys! Again, most of this is not really new information for hardcore fans, but it is nevertheless so nice and legitimately relieving to see so many details about the world and characters be fully canonized and made readily available for all to see. And that's what I mean when I say this game makes me feel genuinely hopeful for the future of Star Fox. It feels like, until now, Nintendo has just kind of been winging it with this franchise, making things up as they went along, treating it no differently than how they have with some of their more insular franchises like Mario or Zelda. But Star Fox shouldn't be like that. It's a space opera, just like something like Star Wars, Star Trek, or Battlestar Galactica. When you have a whole sci-fi universe to work with, it's so much more important to have a consistent setting with fully realized characters and fleshed out lore. Yes, from a gameplay perspective, Star Fox is fun, always has been, mostly, and this game is no exception. But it's the way they expand on the story and characters that make it feel so much more alive than it ever has before. The only other game in my mind that comes close is Assault, which to me was the only true proper sequel to 64 that actually developed the story, characters, and world in meaningful ways. This game is like that, but tenfold. If this really does end up being like a Samus Returns into Metroid Dread situation, and Velan Studios ends up making a truly brand new Star Fox game after this, then I will be ecstatic. Just maybe make some tweaks to things in the meantime. I'll keep this brief since I really want the main crux of this video to be about what I love about this remake and why I'm excited for the future, but I do think it's only fair that I cover the handful of issues I have with this game's presentation. Number one, the character designs. I know a lot has been said about them, and I myself am no stranger to complaining about them. For what it's worth, I really truly do not think the designs are bad, and especially after playing the game and seeing them in action, they've honestly grown on me a lot. I'll always have a soft spot for the more cartoony, stylized designs of the past, but I think for what they're going for in this sort of fully realized, rebooted Star Fox universe, I think it works great. It suits the relatively more grounded tone of the game and the incredibly detailed environments a lot, but I do think they could make some tweaks nonetheless. Mostly just proportion stuff. I think Slippy and Peppy look fine. Really, it's just Fox and Falco that need a second pass, I think. For example, I love their digitigrade animal legs, but I do think they're a little too short and skinny. They feel very top-heavy, like they'd have difficulty keeping balance when they stood up. Also, where's the metal boots? Just because they have animal feet doesn't mean they can't still have the boots. Just have them conform more to the new shape of their legs and I think it would look fine. It's an iconic aspect of the characters. They even called attention to it in the Galaxy movie. Beyond that, Fox's neck is, I think, just a little too thick looking with all the fur. It's not particularly flattering at certain angles. And both him and Falco, I think, could use slightly larger eyes to give them a little more room for expressiveness. I could probably talk for hours about the tweaks I'd make to every character in this style, and like I said, I don't want to dwell too much on this for the time being. The main other thing I wanted to mention was the voice acting. I've seen a lot of comparisons between this remake and the original game, most of them less than favorable, and yeah, I get it. I don't want to downplay the original voices at all. I know I kind of poke fun at Star Fox 64 for being a very quippy and one-liner centric game, but Star Fox 64 was legitimately way ahead of its time in terms of voice acting. Even if a lot of the dialogue is pretty over the top, that's what makes it so memorable, and the deliveries for every single character are near perfection. So much so that even when the exact same cast redid all of their lines for the 3DS remake, and then revoiced all the characters again for Zero, it just didn't quite hit the same most of the time. I really do believe the voice acting and delivery of Star Fox 64 was lightning in a bottle. I don't think it's even really possible to quite capture that the same way again, so I'm actually okay with them going in a different direction for the most part. Now, I am of course referring to the English voiceovers for these games. I'm not really familiar with the other languages, but for the remake, they definitely went in a decidedly different direction for most of the cast, and honestly, for the most part, I think it works. The Star Fox team especially, I think, all sound great. Slippy and Peppy, I think in particular, are really good. All of Starwolf's voices, I think, fit pretty well, as does General Pepper and Cat. Andross, I think, is actually a straight-up improvement over the original. It's so maniacal and full of rage, I kinda love it.
You'll pay for your interference as he did! Only I have the brains to rule the Lilac system! There is no justice in this system! Let it all burn!
Although I definitely understand why some people would prefer the almost demonic sounding voice from the original. Where things get a bit messy is with many of the bosses. They were some of the most over-the-top memorable parts of the original Star Fox 64. I think for the most part, many of the voices themselves are fine. In fact, a couple, like the Saru Marine Captain, I actually think are better than the original.
Curse you, Star Fox!
But a lot of them just feel a little flat in their timing and delivery. The Shogun Commander and the Macbeth Train Engineer in particular, I think suffer from some weak direction, the latter especially during the alternate path. The flat vocal delivery in the alternate path takes what was one of the best scenes in the original game and makes it far less memorable.
No, wait! Hit the brakes!
No! Hit the brakes!
I can't stop it!
I can't stop it!
And to clarify, I do like other lines and deliveries from these characters, but like I said, I think the direction overall just needs to be a little stronger to get performances on the same level as the original, even in this new style. No, the one character that completely disappointed me was Bill Gray on Katina. He had such a distinct voice and personality in the original, almost having a California surfer bro accent at times.
Fox, you made it! Enemy mothership approaching! Fox, that's one of ours! The hatches are open! Yeehaw! You did it!
And in the remake, he's just the biggest, lamest piece of white bread ever created.
Husky unit, run them off on the horizon. What is that? She's got a force field. Wait for your opening. Bring that ship down before it's too late. We did it. All units, disengage.
It's not even just his voice or the delivery. I think they sapped a lot of the personality out of his lines for no real reason. It's especially jarring since so many of the other characters got a lot more personality in their lines, or at least to me they did. So it seems weird that Bill just kinda got turned into a generic soldier dude. Could definitely use another pass on that going forward. At the end of the day, Star Fox for the Nintendo Switch 2 is not an absolutely perfect game. Certainly not for everyone. But maybe I'm being overdramatic, but to me it's less about what it is and more about what it represents. Star Fox fans like me are all too familiar with discussing the potential of the series, but I really do believe that this game represents something bigger than what it seems at first glance. Nintendo, or Velon Studios, have finally given the world of Star Fox some of the love and care it deserves, and for the first time I can think of, I feel some genuine excitement about the future of the series. I have hope. If this really is intended to be a true reboot to get the series started on the right foot again, then I think they kind of knocked it out of the park, way better than I could have expected for a game like this. I was fully expecting this game to feel phoned in, yet another remake of Star Fox 64, an excuse for Nintendo to say, see, we still care about Star Fox, now shut up and leave us alone. But after playing the game, I don't think that's the case, at least not entirely. Obviously, I don't know what the future holds, but if this game and past events are any indication, I think this may finally be the start of a proper new era for the Star Fox series. I sincerely hope that's the case anyway. Please, Nintendo, I don't want to wait another 10 years for another game just to be another remake of 64. Please let this be the last one. If you have a Switch 2 and you were on the fence about this game before this video, I really highly recommend you give Star Fox a try. It's the best game in the series so far, gameplay-wise and story-wise. It's pretty much the absolute perfect jumping on point for those new to the series. And for those that did play the old ones and weren't convinced about the value of the new remake, honestly, I recommend giving it a try too. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how different the game feels just from the new cutscenes and character interactions alone. It really does add so much to the experience of this game, more than you think it would. I mean, geez, I didn't even talk about the multiplayer. It's actually really fun. It's a little unfortunate that there's only 3 maps, but they're all pretty unique with their different objectives and gimmicks to shake things up. I honestly wouldn't mind a big expanded version of this as a standalone release down the line, especially if it's something like Assault, where you have on-foot and landmaster combat as well, sort of like a smaller scale version of Star Wars Battlefront. For this game, the multiplayer does feel a little tacked on, but in a way it kind of reminds me of how games used to be designed, where they'd release with basic multiplayer modes just for fun. Not every game needs to be the next Call of Duty or Overwatch. Sometimes it's nice to just have a little side mode to play online with friends or strangers and enjoy something with like-minded people. It's kind of like how I feel about the multiplayer in the Luigi's Mansion sequels. There should still probably be more than 3 maps. That's pretty paltry, but it's not a deal breaker or anything. I'd rather have a bare bones but still fun and enjoyable multiplayer mode than none at all. Star Fox for Switch 2, the remake of Star Fox 64 from 30 years ago, is honestly way better than it has any right to be. And as much as I would have loved to see a brand new entry, and I still do, I am more than satisfied seeing the love and care Valon and Nintendo have put into this game and the world of Star Fox. Is this the start of a new era for the series? Honestly, I don't know for sure, but if it is, then I think this was a fantastic way to reinvent Star Fox for a new age of players and bring it back into the mainstream. Stay tuned, I'm sure I'll be talking plenty about the Star Fox series in the future, but for now, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Nova Starkyle, and I will see you next time.